Hi everyone, my name is Janshpa and this is my case study final presentation. The agenda for my presentation is my introduction followed by motivation, my solution, concluded with my conclusions and future directions of my work. Introduction, big picture of my work. My main focus is to make all my students feel welcome and supported inside the classroom. I want them to achieve their developmental goals so they can have a solid foundation for their future learning inside my classroom. I've arranged the space along with my routine to best support their needs. For example, creating small group centers that are spaced out. This helps with my students not feeling overwhelmed and helps them with their focus. My classroom materials and shelves are labeled so my students can access and clean up more independently. I included material supports to help any students that may need it. For example, using pencil grips on our handwriting pencils for students who may struggle with using a pincer grasp. For longer transition times, I read stories or sing songs. Inside the classroom, I also implement a standard timer to help with the rotation of centers. When the timer goes off, my students know they could choose another center. I also use a visual 30-minute stand timer so my students can estimate how much longer center time is before cleaning up for the next part of their daily routine. During social times, I encourage my students to talk with each other and pair children up in small groups during structured activities. Within the groups, I try to create peer support with students who are more advanced, with students who need more help. The children who are more advanced support their peers by modeling how to accomplish a task or verbally helping them. I also consider their level of focus and who they are typically interact with. I believe it is important for children to interact with all their peers and learn from each other. Motivation, the problem I am trying to solve. The center I work in has an academic focus, and most of my morning routine is focused on developmental areas. I have noticed some of my students are struggling in some areas, and since we are nearing the end of the school year, I want to find ways I could best support them to achieve the goals I have set in place for my students before they are transitioning to pre-K. I understand every child is unique and needs different supports to help them achieve their full potential. Through my work in this course, I wanted to find ways I could best support my students. My focus for this course was a student who is the oldest inside my classroom and I observed has reached the least number of these goals. My solution, the work I am putting in place this session. This is my focus child for the course. His name is Caleb. He is always smiling, like you can see in the picture on the right. His strengths is he's a creative builder, works well in small group settings with adult support, does well with large motor activities such as kicking, throwing, running, etc. Some of his difficulties were communicating with peers, playing in a larger group setting, letter and number recognition, holding a pencil with a pencil grasp, tracing, and writing his name. Matrix activity. I provided a breakdown of my classroom daily routine. Within the matrix, I identified frequent opportunities to work with Caleb on engaging in conversations with his peers. For example, during 8:30 a.m. and 8:55 a.m., the children are engaged in morning centers where they are freely choose a teacher-chosen center and engage with conversations about their play or conflict resolution, like sharing toys each other has. This also occurs during 9:40 a.m. to 10:40 a.m. when the students are engaged in free play learning centers. I also identify a specific part of the day where I work with my students on their handwriting skills. During this time, I sit with my students and provide support to anyone who is having difficulty, like holding a pencil or tracing the assignment of the day. Another part of the day the students practice their handwriting is during morning drop-off with their parents through a sign-in sheet. The 3 goals that I have established during this activity has conversations with peers during group or free choice time, uses a pencil grasp when holding a writing or coloring material independently, and can write first and last name independently. Modifications I put in place. Before this course, I used to do larger group handwriting where all my children sat down at once. Now I created smaller groups to provide easier support for my students like Caleb. My students use a sheet to trace their first and last name. I made modifications to Caleb's sheet by only including his first name so he can focus on accomplishing a goal of mine, which is students can write their first name independently. This aligns with the first step of goal number 3 on the breakdown assignment I completed. The final modification was I created modifications to his writing materials by adding grips and stickers to help identify finger placement. I modeled how to use the material as a reminder when providing it to my students, like Caleb. So on the left here is the social supports to help with communication, which is the list of the group names. So you can see Caleb's name on this list. On group 1, he is supported by 4 other of his peers, which they working together as a group to complete different tasks, and also works on his communication because some of these students are more talkative, so that kind of gets Caleb out of his shell a little bit. In the middle is the modifications I made to his handwriting materials to help with his pencil grasp. In his pencils is one with the stickers and one with the grippy. And I also placed stickers on his dry erase marker that he uses. On the left is his morning sign-in name tracing. He does this with his parents, and he's been doing really well at it. And his parents really love to get involved in this activity. Embedded teaching activity. For my embedded teaching activity, I used 2 handwriting tracing packets, uppercase letters and name. To work on the third goal I set for Caleb, the goal was to work on Caleb's grasp using a handwriting or art material. During the activity, I sat next to Caleb, then explained what we were going to do. I did this activity one-on-one since it was being recorded and my other students didn't have a release form. I placed stickers on his dry erase marker to show where his fingers should be placed. I also modeled how to hold the marker in a pencil grip grasp and repeated this action when I made observations on him needing more support. Throughout the activity, I guided Caleb on completing the handwriting sheets. For example, while working on the uppercase letter tracing, I said the next letter along with the sound that we were supposed to work on. This was to help Caleb identify the letters along with their sounds to help his developmental in this area. I made observations on his tracing and used the hand over hand technique when he needed more support. For example, when I observed him tracing the letters from the bottom, I used this technique to guide his hand movements. This was the first time I introduced the sticker method with Caleb and found it worked better for him than using the grips on his pencil. Since the activity, he has been asking to use the stickers on his handwriting materials, which I find to be a great success. Conclusion and future work directions of my work is my reflection. Throughout the session working with Caleb, I was making small adjustments to his social setting and materials. This helped me grasp a better understanding on what is working the best to support him and his needs. There wasn't anything that I felt was difficult. In the past, I have done similar things with past students. From this course, I learned new skills and techniques, which I found useful, especially with Caleb. For example, I knew about the pencil grips, but not about using stickers to help with finger placement. When I used the pencil grip with Caleb, I noticed him having more difficulty with writing, but when I was using the stickers, he was able to hold the pencil a little better. Something I wish I could have done differently was allowing Caleb more freedom during the embedded teaching activity. This was something a peer mentioned to me, and I have been reflecting a lot on how I can be making these improvements in this area for all of my students. I believe allowing children to make mistakes can be beneficial to them because this is when they learn. However, this is an area I find can be a little harder for me. In the future, I plan on continuing to work with Caleb using the skills and techniques I learned in this course. I will use the breakdown of the goals assignment to help me with the process. I would also like to use some of the concepts I learned with my other students. For example, using the stickers on handwriting materials. This is an area of my other students have found difficulty in as well. I want to learn about other skills and techniques beyond this course, so I will conduct online research and talk to coworkers to gather more information on how I can accomplish this. Overall, this was experience. I was able to clearly identify areas of strength and difficulty for my student. This course allowed me to create a plan that worked best for Caleb. There were 3 main goals I set for him: communicating with his peers during center activities, writing his name independently, and using a pencil grasp independently. I observed how the breakdown of goals is beneficial to him and allows him to receive support at his pace. I made modifications to his writing materials by adding grips and stickers to help with his finger placement. Caleb asked for his modified pencils and dry erase marker when doing handwriting activities now. I observed how his tracing has become a lot smoother when using these materials. This is a comment I made to him during the embedded teaching activity. To help with his social skills, I have been sitting on his play and asking open-ended questions to help him get involved in conversations. From doing this action, I have noticed improvement in Caleb's opening up more with his peers. I also created small groups with peers that can provide support when I am not around. This is another area I have found benefits Caleb since he's worked best in smaller group settings. I look forward to seeing more progress as I continue with Caleb and him accomplishing the goals I put in place for him. Thank you for listening and for a great session.